supper.
All right, I have after 6 o'clock, I'd like to call the city council meeting to order. We could all rise for a moment of silence. Thank you, and if you could turn and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Clerk, would you call the roll call of council persons?
Lehman. Kodak.
Here.
Cassidy.
Here.
Baker.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
Mendoza.
Here.
Lake.
Here.
Move to excuse Councilperson Lehman.
Second.
We have a motion by Mendoza, a second by Lake to excuse councilperson Lehman. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Kodak.
Yes.
Cassidy.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Mendoza.
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Councilperson Lehman is excused. Minutes of the previous meeting.
They be approved.
Second.
We have a motion by Lake, a second by Mendoza to approve the video minutes of the previous meeting. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Kodak.
Yes.
Cassidy.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Mendoza.
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
All right, and before we go further, I wanted to point out on the agenda, the last item of new business on your agendas. That should say ordinance, not resolution. And then the preamble has been altered. The substance and the version that you were sent via email is correct for you to look over, but we are striking the words on this preamble: prosecutor, county contribution fund, police and fire pension fund. We are also striking transferring funds from the general fund to the police and fire pension. And we are adding health insurance fund. So the entire preamble should then say ordinance number 2024, adopting and amending ordinance number 2023-66, permanent 2024 appropriations by appropriating from unappropriated funds in the general fund, stormwater fund, and health insurance fund, and declaring an emergency to exist. So that's just a correction on the agenda. We had used a previous preamble and that was incorrect on here. Any other questions or comments before we move on? Seeing none, we'll move into communications.
I have first a notice to all Class C and D retail permits to sell alcoholic beverages that the subdivision will expire on February 1st, 2025. So any permit holder must file an online renewal application with the division. That's number one. Also, we received a thank you card for the Fostoria Picklers. Because I don't want to really read somebody else's cursive, I just thought we'd pass it around.
Perfect.
Okay, right? Can you see it?
I've seen it too.
All right. Then we have two hearings from the Division of Liquor Control for a request for a hearing. The first one is for Fat Jack's and Those LLC, which is doing business as Jack and Doe's Pizza. Number one. The second one is for Adnan LLC, doing business as Rick Carryout Store.
Would you repeat that?
Adnan LLC, doing business as Rick Carryout Store. It's on 202 East Tiffin Street, or 201 East Tiffin Street. Former Jack's Carryout. Want to know if either one of you, these need hearings?
Anyone desire a hearing for either of those liquor permits? The consensus is no.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
All right, report of committees, finance committee.
Our next meeting will be at 5:30 at here at council chambers, whatever that date is. 17th.
All right, thank you. Public affairs committee.
As a reminder, there are plenty of events planned for this weekend. Everyone is invited to meet at the city building lawn this Friday, December 6th at 5:45 p.m. to go on a guided walk for the downtown Christmas decorated window tour. Afterwards, cast your vote for first, second, and third place and watch the Christmas tree lighting ceremony with our newly crowned Snow Queen, Sue Eckleberry, at 213 South Main Street. Java's Enchanted Bean will be providing beverages to keep you warm, and Mr. and Mrs. Claus themselves will be there for a photo opportunity. This Saturday, December 7th, the Fostoria Area Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau will be hosting its famous Sip and Shop event at the Fostoria Learning Center from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. The Fostoria City Council Public Affairs Committee is hosting a candidacy informational public forum on the second floor of the Kabish Memorial Public Library in the McLean Conference Room at 11 a.m. And the annual holiday parade in downtown Fostoria will start at 1:30 p.m. Be sure to arrive early to get a good spot. Also, don't forget to visit the Children's Wonderland and Santa at the Depot, sponsored by the Fostoria Rail Preservation Society, every Tuesday and Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from noon to 2 at 128 West North Street. The Public Affairs Committee will meet again on Tuesday, December 17th at 5 p.m. here in Council Chambers.
Thank you very much. Law and Ordinance Committee.
Nothing new to report. The Law and Ordinance Committee will meet again on Tuesday, December 17th at 5:15 here in Council Chambers.
Thank you very much. Moving on to report of officers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The public hearing for the electrical aggregation plan were held yesterday, and the recording of that hearing is available. The first two items under new business will need to be passed as an emergency, but can go two readings. They must be passed before the end of the month.
Thank you very much. Mr. Safety Service Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it appears as if we're finally coming to the end of the journey for the Clark gas station. For new council people and some who've been around here for a while, we've been involved in abandoned gas station grant since pre-COVID, I think. And I think we're on the very last phase of that. The company has reached out for demolition permits and such for the demolition of the building and the concrete that's on there. So eventually that'll be certified as a clean site. And I know we talked about it in the past. Then the owner still retains that property, but it is part of a larger property that it'll become, and hopefully become some development in the future. But been a long time coming. We're getting very close to the end of that particular project, so that's good to see. And I know that there's been quite a bit of consternation about the letters that went out about lead water lines, and that's all part of that GLOW program and the federal mandate that cities across the country are supposed to identify lead lines and galvanized lines on the city's side of the stop and also on the customer's side of the stop, and then send everyone a letter who may have either a lead line or a galvanized line, or even if you don't have one, if the city's is a lead line on our side, or even something kind of upstream of where the water flows, and we're required to give notice. And that is a federal requirement. The water is still safe to drink, but it is part of the big initiative that started with the EPA and was pushed hard by the Biden-Harris administration to get the lead out. And so we were following a mandated timeline where we had to send the letters out to let people know. We are part of the GLOW program is helping us to identify either grant programs or the state revolving loan fund or things like that to start to eliminate those. That's part of the next piece, but part of the requirement, which just caused people some worry, is that we put out those notifications. Water's still safe to drink. We're looking at the next round of letters that go out to rephrase some of the things in there. So the first sentence says, well, water is safe to drink, but the requirement of the federal government is we send you this letter and we will be working then from the time that we finish identifying all the lines to start to eliminate those lead lines. And so that'll be a long-term project, but we are required to put out those notifications. I know it caused a lot of worry, but it was a federal requirement that we followed. That's it for me.
Thank you. Madam Law Director.
Thank you. We received some correspondence from the agents of the former Rite Aid property, um, indicating that unauthorized vehicles and people are not permitted on the property. They will be trespassing. And starting next week, we will start to enforce that. That's just due to liability issues of unauthorized people being on that property. It could be a potential liability issue for those property owners. So we just want to let everyone know that. So starting next week, if you don't have permission, don't be on that property. That's all.
Thank you. Director of Finance.
Tonight, we have the second reading on our 5-year recovery plan, as well as the budget for 2025. If you do have questions, feel free to reach out to me prior to the third reading, so it gets passed with everybody comfortable with what's in that. We have balanced November. We'll probably close November tomorrow. So we are progressing through, getting ready for the new year. Your legislation that's on the ordinance tonight, adjusting appropriations, that's just some year-end cleanup. You never know what we're going to spend in utilities. That's pretty common that we have to come back and ask for additional money there. The biggest number there was the health insurance fund, and what that is the employee's share of the premiums we withhold from their check, and so the revenue's there. But if you remember last month or last meeting, we adjusted our health insurance benefit costs because they were higher than what we had budgeted. Well, that holds true for the employee share as well. So we have to, before we can move those dollars out of that fund, you have to appropriate that $30,000 that we've withheld from their check. So that's what that's the biggest chunk of that legislation. That's all I have.
Thank you. All righty, we'll now move into the public portion of the meeting. We do have a request from Deb Tyson to speak, so if you'd like to come up and limit your comments to 10 minutes, please.
Hi, Deb Tyson, 800 Woodward Avenue, Lot 9. Couple comments that I have is I did want to commend everyone for such a good year that the city council and the city have done in moving forward in many things. However, I attended the public hearing yesterday. I was the only one there, besides the mayor. So that is sad for the citizens. And I like that, we were able to have YouTube, and that is very helpful since nobody was able to show up. The other thing is, people have been asking me about the overpass, Columbus and Town Street, and I know it's a work in progress, but I wish that there was some information out there because I don't want to give out the wrong information to somebody that just asked me a simple question. But you know, it's not homeowners, if that's what anybody's thinking. It's just the general people that use that area, and they kind of like to know where we're at. And I'm just waiting for next year to happen because I think that we'll see more exciting things happen. Thank you.
May I answer Deb on that question? That Columbus Avenue overpass project is a 2028 project. So right now they're in the very early preliminary stages of planning. So until they finish the surveying and develop the plans, we don't know any more than you know.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we'll open up the meeting to anyone else from the public that wishes to address council. We just ask you to state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll move into old business.
A resolution authorizing, empowering, and directing the Director of Public Service and Safety, acting as agent of the City of Fostoria, to execute and deliver to the Seneca County Land Reutilization Corporation all necessary instruments to effect a good and sufficient conveyance of parcel of land from the City of Fostoria to the Seneca County Land Reutilization Corporation in the vicinity of 421 McDougal Street.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Cassidy, a second by Hodak. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Kodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
The resolution does pass. It's resolution number 2024-94.
A resolution authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety on behalf of the City of Foster, Ohio, to make application to the Ohio Department of Transportation, Office of Aviation, for an Ohio Airport Improvement Program grant for the SFY 2025 and declaring an emergency to exist.
Move to adopt. Second.
We have a motion by Lake, a second by Cassidy to adopt. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Kodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
That carries. It becomes resolution number 2024-95.
A resolution supporting the Ohio Commission for the United States Semi-Quincentennial Americas 250-OH.
Move to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion by Mendoza, a second by Baker. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Kodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
Does pass. It's resolution number 2024-96.
An ordinance to amend the traffic control map and file for the City of Foster, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Move to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion by Lake, second by Mendoza to adopt. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Kodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
That does pass. It's ordinance number 2024-97.
An ordinance to amend the schedule of fees for all applications for certificates, permits, appeals, variances, amendments, and other matters pertaining to the administration and enforcement of the city's zoning code.
Was the second reading of that ordinance.
Did you say building? Said zoning.
I said zoning.
Said zoning?
I thought I did.
Okay. We're in echo.
Moving on, you ready?
Yeah, you ready to read the next one?
An ordinance to accept a proposed agreement for a community reinvestment area tax incentive agreement from National Electrical Carbon Products, Inc., and authorizing further action thereon and declaring an emergency to exist.
That was the second reading of that ordinance.
An ordinance to approve a loan from the revolving loan fund, UDAG Fund Number 240, to Seneca Property Holdings LLC, disperse $750,000 from Fund 240 to make that approved loan and declaring an emergency to exist.
That was the second reading of that ordinance.
An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety to negotiate and enter into a contract with Seneca County Joint Ambulance District, Jackson Township, Seneca County, Ohio, for the provision of emergency medical services and declaring an emergency to exist.
That is the second reading of that ordinance.
An ordinance amending Section 941.03 of the codified ordinances of the City of Foster, Ohio, relating to sewer rates and declaring an emergency to exist.
That was the second reading of that ordinance and concludes, nope, we got two more. Next page.
Nice try.
Right, yeah.
An ordinance adopting an amendment to the financial recovery plan for the city of Fostoria, Ohio, and declaring an emergency to exist.
That's the second reading of that ordinance.
An ordinance establishing the fiscal year 2025 permanent appropriations and declaring an emergency to exist.
That was the second reading of that ordinance. And that does conclude old business. We'll go into new business.
A resolution approving the Wood County Budget Commission's local government fund distribution plan and declaring an emergency.
Move to suspend the three reading rule on three separate occasions. Second.
We have a motion by Lake, second by Baker to suspend the three reading rule on three separate occasions. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
The three reading rule has been suspended.
To adopt.
Second.
We have a motion by Lake, a second by Hall to adopt. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Hodak,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
All right, and that does carry as resolution number 2024-98.
A resolution adopting the federally approved Seneca County All Hazard Mitigation Plan of 2025 and declaring an emergency to exist.
That is the first reading of that ordinance.
An ordinance adopting and amending ordinance number 2023-66, permanent 2024 appropriations by appropriating from unappropriated funds in the general fund, stormwater fund, and health insurance fund and declaring an emergency to exist.
Move to suspend the three reading rule on three separate occasions.
Second.
We have a motion by Mendoza, a second by Lake to suspend the three reading rule. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
The three reading rule has been suspended.
Move to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion by Lake, second by Hall. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
Does pass, it becomes ordinance number 2024-99. That concludes new business. Is there any reason to go into executive session this evening? Seeing none, is there any miscellaneous business this evening?
Yes, Mr. President. I would like to ask council to appoint Paul Allison and Libra Tedrow to the library board, serving a term beginning in January 1st, 2025 through 12/31 of 2028.
I'd like to make that motion.
So moved.
Will.
So we have a motion by Mendoza,
Second.
second by Lake for the roles of Paul Allison and Libra Tedrow to a library board term beginning January 1st, 2025, I believe concluding in 2028, if I remember correctly. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
They are accepted. Any other miscellaneous business this evening? All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Cassidy, second by Mendoza. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
We are adjourned at 6:25.